Luckily
That's
for
good.
me, from what I do, it, I haven't been affected by the whole economy and the fact that we're staying home, because I work with clients internationally anyway. I'm on the phone all the time, or I'm on the Zoom call. So this is
Yeah,
very, very familiar. So I'm doing very well.
that's good. That's lovely.
And I
That's lovely.
connected with you. So, that's how I met you.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. We met, during this period, and it's been wonderful. I've seen your works. You've been doing wonderfully well, and then you are busy, and I really see that you are impacting lives, and I am happy that you are going to do that on our conference, Living Above Fear. Trying to allay people's fear who have been, during this period and even beyond. So thank you for coming on our show, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so let's start with your story, Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to share your story about how you said no to all kinds of fear and became an inspiration to many people, starting from how it all began. I really want you to let our people know how it all started.
Yeah. So I was born in Taiwan and I grew up in Taiwan. So when I was born, I was a very happy baby. My mom described me as a happy baby. I never cried. I was very, very a beautiful baby. I
Mm,
describe myself beautiful baby.
yeah.
And growing up until 11 years old, I was just like every other kids. You go to school and there's nothing special about me at all, up until 11. And one day, when I was 11 years old, I was coming off from school and my mom was running late. She was running late to pick me up from school. So I was talking to my best friend and we were talking about, the next day, what we're going to do. We were planning, we had all these ideas for our future, the play day for tomorrow. And I saw my mom coming from across the opposite street. So I wanted to get up and I wanted to meet her on the other side. So I got up and I was crossing the and she was shouting. She said, "Stop, stop." And I heard there was a lot of motion that was going around.
Okay.
And in that moment, I didn't know what was going on. So I was
All right.
confused. So I stood there, and by the time that I realized, I woke up in the hospital. I was completely blacked out. And from what I have heard is that when I was standing in the middle of the street, there was a car coming really fast. It must have ran a red light. It was coming towards me really fast, and it must have hit me. And so I was down. And I don't remember how I got from the ground to the hospital. Someone must have called the ambulance and they must have taken me to the hospital. All I remember was I woke up, I was already in the hospital, and I was watching my mom, and I remember I was just feeling a lot of pain on my body. So I looked down, and from my waist
Yeah.
all the way to my ankle, I was wrapped with plasters, and I couldn't move. And it was just very painful, and I couldn't move. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. In that panic mode, I didn't know what to do. Like, what was going on? And so from 11-year-old, when the car accident happened, up until when I was 15, that whole 4 years of period, I was just
Yeah.
recovering from that accident. I went to multiple surgeries, so I have a lot of scars on my leg.
Mm,
And because what happened was the doctor couldn't, they found out that my bone was not healing. So in order to stabilize the bone and help it heal, surgery, it was like something that I took ownership of. So I went back to the surgery for 13 times. So I had 13 scars on my leg, both sides. Going through that experience, and I was living in a rehabilitation center, in a physical rehab center. And so I was living there by myself. My parents could only come visit me on the weekend. They have to go home. They can't stay with me. And during the weekday, they would send us to kind of like a boarding school. You send the kids away, and you study very tight. And I was living there myself. And I was just sharing this yesterday about the fact that I was 13 when I first got my period. And when I first got my period, I was in the hospital. I was in the rehab center. I was by myself, even though my mom had already prepared me. When women reach to a certain age, you're gonna have your period, and this is what to expect. But it was different when I have to experience it alone. And when you experience, that getting your first period as a woman, as a young woman, it was something very scary. And I wish I had someone to stay there with me, to help me to go over that emotional struggle. So it was very alone and very isolated, and I felt like it was just me growing up alone. So from 11 to 15, that's where I got the permission to come to United States. So we immigrated from Taiwan to United States.
Right. Okay.
And when I first got to United States, I didn't speak English. The fact that we're conversing in English is like another hurdle that I had to overcome. I had to learn from the very beginning. Yeah. So this is like a whole different experience. When I first got here, I didn't know how to speak English, so English was a big struggle for me. Going different, the chicken meat, there's the thigh, there's the breast. I didn't know the difference, so I couldn't order. So living with the disability. By the time I was discharged from the hospital, my doctor had given me a pair of metal bracelets, and my doctor told me, Michelle, you have to wear these metal bracelets, because if you don't, as you're growing, your body is gonna weight your legs down, and what's gonna happen is it's gonna create a misfigure. It's gonna disfigure. So I want you to wear these metal bracelets, and they're really ugly. They're the most ugly, hideous mini skirts. I can't wear any dress to go on top of the metal bracelet. So it was just very difficult to embrace it and to love it and say, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna wear this till I'm 18. No, it didn't happen to me. By age 16, I said, you know what? I'm gonna just take it off. I'm gonna look like everyone else. I wanted to be pretty. I wanted to dress up. I wanted to go out with dates. I want to do everything that other people are doing. So I decided to take off the metal bracelet, and of course, happened that my body was really weighing my legs down. So I slowly noticed that I could no longer walk long distance without crutches, without assistance. And I noticed that my legs started to disfigure. So it's very difficult to accept myself, especially around the teenage time. Because when I look into the mirror, I don't see a normal body. I don't see, pretty women. I don't see that. I see a complete different person, very ugly, very short. So I'm still 44 inches tall, very petite. And when I go and buy clothing, a lot of time I can't find anything to fit me. I have to go shop at Children's, because everything else is all adult size, right? And unfortunately, they don't make things one size fits all. So I always have to go to the children's size, because that's what fits me. So that's what I have been going through like all my entire life, just to deal with the fact that I look very different. I don't fit in anywhere. I don't look normal. And I use the word normal, and that's how I came up with my book, Perfectly Normal, because for a very long time, I just want to be normal. And normal means, you know, a woman have a shape. They have a body shape, diamond, shape, pear, apple, whatever. And so there were nights where I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would just cry. For no reason at all. I would wake up in the middle of the night, I would just cry, and it was just an enormous sense of lost. It was a loss of the ability to look normal, loss of the ability to jump, to run, you know, to just be functional like everybody else. And when you have that enormous sense of loss, then there's nothing to hold on to. Like, it's all pure darkness. I remember it was, you know, sometimes I would describe it as just pure darkness. I was living in darkness where there's nothing to hold on to. So fast forward, so going into graduate school, college, graduate school, I noticed that my body was just deteriorating every single day. It was just to the point where I get tired all the time. You know, I'm physically tired, emotionally tired, and not to mention, you know, I was actually putting up some weight. A lot of us can overcome, right? Maybe a good night's sleep can overcome it. Maybe, you know, losing some weight, you'll be able to overcome it. But what I've learned is that the emotional challenge, emotional feelings that we have inside, that is the most difficult part to overcome. So whether it's fear, whether it's anxiety, whether it's, you know, low self-esteem or appreciating your body image, those are the things that's most difficult to overcome. And that's what I was dealing with. I was dealing with the emotional and the physical challenge that I was experiencing. My lowest point in my life, it was just desperation. And so I woke up that morning and I said to myself, you know, I'm only 40 years old. I was 40, but by the time I had this realization, I was 40 years old. I may have another 40 to go. What am I gonna do? So I started to ask myself, like, I can't do this for another 40 years to go. What can I do? And what's funny is the minute I started to ask myself the question, like, what are you going to do? It was almost as if someone had like shined a light on me and said, you know what, you need to think guidepost to start providing inquiry within yourself. And when you start doing that, it gives you the options. And when you have an option, it means that you have a choice. And now you can decide what you want to do. Same thing with fear. When you are afraid of something, let's say the COVID-19 right now, right? So we're afraid of the COVID right now. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what our future is. We don't know that. But the minute that you start quiet yourself down, and when you ask yourself, okay, this is where I am, what can I do here? You start looking into opportunity, believe it or not, right?
That's powerful.
Yeah. So I love the question why. Like, why are we here? Why are we doing something that we do? Why do we feel so passionate? There's a power of why. I know there's a book called Power of Now, right? But I believe there's a very powerful purpose behind asking ourselves why. When you start asking yourself why, you start to get curious. And when fear comes, asking yourself, why are you afraid? What are you afraid of? Is what you're afraid of the reality? Is what you're afraid of going to happen? Is it like how likely it is? So when you start gaining inquiry, you consciously begin to dive into deeper. So I started to ask myself why. And when I asked myself why, that question was, well, you know, my answer was, if physical challenge is my challenge, I'm going to challenge my physical challenge.
Wow, you challenge your challenge.
Yeah, you challenge your challenge, right?
Wow.
And what's the easiest thing for me at that time was to overcome that physical challenge. Emotional challenge, I can worry about because it's harder to deal with. So I'm gonna worry about that a little later. I'm just gonna deal with my physical challenge first. So I remember I went out and I went to the nearby. Show you my balancing ball.
Yeah, I'm going to do that because still live today. Okay.
Yeah. So I went out and I bought my balancing ball, and I said, you know what? If I can't run, I can't jump. The very least I can do is to sit on the ball and just kind of rock back and forth. Maybe it'll help me a little bit, right? So then I start doing that. I did that for about a week, and then I noticed, well, this is not helping me losing weight, so I got to do something else. What do I want to do? I went to a gym, and this is like my first time ever going to a gym. I walk into the gym. I don't know how to use the machine. I don't know how to like use some of the equipment, but yet I wanted to be able to you know, start working out. So I went into the I said, you know, I can't do this by myself, and I don't know how. So I'm gonna get someone to help me to help myself. And I think there's a phrase that, you know, God help those who help themselves, right? But sometimes, you know, God help those who ask someone else to help themselves. And I think we're all in this together. So sometimes we just have to admit and just understand that the fact that you just simply can't do things alone. And it's okay to say, I need help. It's okay to say, I can't do this and I need help. So start asking for help. And I think that's the most important thing that people have to get understanding of, that we're not perfect. We are not perfect. And when things are not coming to our way and we can't figure out why, then maybe it's time to ask for some help so that other people, we're all very different. We all have our talent, and we're all know that's the whole idea of sharing knowledge so that we can be better, we can improve, we can grow. So I went and hired a personal coach. I said, listen, here's my challenge. I'm gonna need you to work with me with this challenge, and I have a goal in mind. What was my goal? And I apologize for the noise.
No problem, no problem.
Yeah, so I went to the personal trainer and I said, listen, I have a goal in mind, and my goal is I want to hike. Where do I want to hike? He said, I remember he was looking at me funny. He said, where do you want to hike? Like the little hill here, like the little mountain here? I said, no, I want to hike somewhere else. I want to. And so then he said, he repeated, and he's like, where do you want to go? I said, I want to go Machu Picchu. And so then he said, okay, how do you plan to do that? I said, well, you're gonna. So we start training. We started working out, and every single day, I show up to the gym. Every single day, I do everything that needs to be done with my legs. And he was very helpful. So in 2016, you know, 1 year after I start training with him, I booked myself a ticket, packed my bag, brought my 2 crutches, and they were pink crutches. I have pictures to prove it. They were pink crutches, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna go hiking. And so I flew to Peru, and I met up with other friends from Australia. I made up friends from England. So they were all on my team. But as far as doing the hike, I was there doing it myself. I was just knocking it out. I was doing a lot of push-up after push-up and stairs after stairs. I'm just knocking it out. So that was 2016. And I remember the last day when I got to the Sun Gate. So the last destiny before you enter the Machu Picchu, there's a place called Sun Gate. And when you look up the Sun Gate, it's about 75 to 80 degree angle, and it consists of all the steps. And all these steps are really, really steep and very narrow. So I remember gave my 2 crutches to my team leader. I said, here, hold on to these. Took off my backpack, handed to my team leader. I said, you go up there and meet me. Like, he went up there in just two minutes, 2 seconds. And then I'm like, oh, great, you know, I'm here. I got to go up there. So I got to go up there to meet him. So then I started to get on my knees and legs, and I was just climbing. I was crawling to meet him on the top.
Yeah.
Halfway at the stairs, I said, listen, I was stopping. So halfway at the stairs, I said,
yeah,
I deserve 2 lunches today. And they say, you know, Michelle, you get to the top, I will get you 2 lunches. I said, perfect. So I went all the way. By the time I got to the Sun Gate, it was like people were waiting. There's a lot of travelers going to Machu Picchu, and they were all like 30s, in their 30s and 40s and whatnot. And so when I walked into through the gate where everyone were, they got up, and they were all clapping. They were like, wow. It was just very inspiring. And I started to cry. I was crying. I was tearing, and I couldn't stop because in that moment of time, I realized that there is nothing that is impossible for you to do so long as you believe in yourself.
Wow.
There is nothing that you can.
So that's powerful.
And so I came home. I was really inspired. And like throughout my whole journey, like people would see me, people would meet me, and they would say, Michelle, you're such an inspiration for people. Michelle, you're doing a great job. I love your smile. I love everything about you. But the fact they were telling me all this, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that I am inspiring. I didn't believe that I am beautiful. I didn't believe that, you know, I am possible. I didn't believe any of this. I was just trying to meet everyone's expectation, have a job, finish my school, and just be okay with it. Just being okay and be able to fit into a society. But then throughout the whole journey, people keep telling me, you're inspiration, you are beautiful, you have a beautiful heart, and you can do all this. I didn't believe it. And it was that belief it didn't ground me. It didn't make me feel grounded. So I was constantly afraid the public, like people's gonna turn and they're gonna look at me walking in with crutches. They're gonna laugh at me. They're making fun of me the way I look. I was so afraid of being judged. I was so afraid of being different. There's a story from the Emperor's clothes, right? We all know that story where the emperor was so ignorant that he believed that, you know, what the tailor had made him, you know, even though it's an invisible cloth, he wore it on the street. And it felt like, you know, the emperor wearing that new clothes on the street. That kid called out on him, "Hey, you are naked." And that was how I felt. I felt like I was walking on the street and someone called out, "You're naked." And that sudden shame was so big that I was just so afraid to handle. Because you look different. Because you look different. Whether it's the skin color, whether it's the height, whether it's how we look.
Body shape.
And for some reason, we learn to shame each other. We learn to shame each other. And when we're being shamed or we had experience of shame, we're just
aftermath effect on a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
That can be also attributed to fear, because they will be afraid that if I do it wrong, people are going to shame me the more.
Yeah. And so I came home after the Machu Picchu trip. I was really inspired. I truly started to believe that if I want something, I can do this. And I realized also in Machu Picchu is that my purpose, I was looking for a purpose. My purpose is in this life is really to inspire others. And so I came home, I was asking myself, okay, Michelle, now you have a idea of what your purpose is. How are you going to do that? So I was sitting there, I was wondering, like, okay, so things I end up finding. Number one is I went onto a coaching program. I got myself certified as a coach. So I wanted to be able to do like a one-on-one inspiration for others so that they can start doing getting their shit, well, I call it getting your shit together, right? Getting your shit together so that you can start taking action. And then the other thing I end up doing is sharing my story. I want to be able to share my story as raw, as genuine, as authentic as possible. And I don't want to hide any of my element. Anything that I have gone through, anything that I've struggled, I want to be able to share that in front of the camera, on the stage with you, because I believe that even if just one person hear from me and got inspired from my audience, that is my purpose. That's all I need aiming for. Just one. This is not you. This is not your story, but there's a tiny little bit of element that you find inspirational that you can use in your life. That is my purpose.
Wow.
So I started speaking, and I published the book. This is the book.
Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Beautiful. So I was living above fear and beyond fear, right? How do you live beyond fear? And sometimes when we're experiencing fear, it's so big and so heavy. And like going back to, you know, what I was sharing earlier, like last night I was watching the news and there's so many negative news that was coming. There's a lot of places. The number is still increasing, right? We don't see a level or dropping in terms of the death and the infected people. And the other thing is that we're still trapped at home. We still can't go anywhere. They end up closing a lot of the beach that's around in California, particularly because people were hanging out.
Yeah. And some other countries that have opened up are even experiencing a kind of rebound.
Yeah. And we hear the rebound. So we're thinking, And just imagine the fear that people are experiencing when they are losing their job. There are people who are starting losing their job because this company is not making money, right? And I think it goes to every one of it, because when we're sitting there and we're thinking about the whole situation, we're coming off from, you know, ourselves. This is what happened to me, only me. So there's that mentality of, I am the victim. I am the the result of what's going on here. But we forget that you are not alone. You are not alone. There are people all around the world who's getting impacted by this. And there are people who's going through the same struggle as you are.
As you are, yeah.
And so when we're so focusing on, you know, focusing on unfortunate event of being the victim of these circumstances, we start creating a lot of stories in our head. Oh, how am I gonna make a living? Oh, who's gonna help me taking care of the kids? You know, how am I gonna afford this housing? Our minds are going to see the possibility of all the other opportunity that may be around you already.
True.
So how do you, the question is, how do you break it? How do you put your foot on the gas pedal and just, so, you know what, there's a situation here. Let's slow down and see what the opportunity is. Right? So when you become more aware of your own fear, where is it coming from? Like, where does the fear come from? Is it from the job, because you're losing your job? Is it coming from your family? Maybe everyone is around you and that's stopping you from your work. Where does your fear come from? What is the cause of your fear? And how real is your real? Which they do have a point. Yes, it is real. I'm not saying that your feeling is not real.
Yes.
You are feeling fear, but what I'm saying is the story that you have created around fear, is that real? So for example, people losing their job, right? So maybe they're feeling, oh wow, there's a lot of fear, they're anxious. How true is it? So the story may be behind that fear, maybe something like, well, I would never get back to the workplace. I would never be hired again. When you say that, how true is that? Yeah, how true is that? And there's an acronym they call the fear is false evidence appearing real. Yeah. Yes. Because our mind keep feeding us the stories around the feeling, right? And so one thing that I share to a lot of my clients is that there's an acronym called T. How do you do T? TEA, right? TEA.
Okay. TEA, yeah.
T is thoughts. Number one is thoughts. You have a thought, and therefore it's triggering a emotion. A is action. So when we think of something, when we feel something, we will do something. So if there's something that you keep doing, and you're just going in circle and circle, and you don't understand, you know, why do you keep going back and feeling that fear? Look at this TEA, right?
Yeah.
How are you? What are you telling yourself in that moment of time? Because what you're telling yourself is creating that emotion that's causing you to take certain action.
Some action. Wow. Mitchell, you've given us a hot tea, as in hot tea to drink right now.
So if you want a different action, so we can go backward, right? So if you want a different action, go back and look at what emotion on a different action, come up with a different way of thinking, right? If you have a different way of thinking, you will feel a different way.
different way. It will create different emotions in you.
And that will lead to a different action.
That will lead you to different action. Wow, that's powerful.
So TEA, I call it your cup of tea. So go back and look at your cup of tea.
It's a great cup of tea, and thanks for sharing the cup of tea with us on the conference. That's wonderful.
Yeah, go back and look at your cup of tea. Are you going in a circle in doing something, your behavior? It goes all the way, right? But it all started from a thought. And sometimes people say, well, I don't have a thought, I just have a feeling. Well, that's not entirely true, because that thought always came from, that feeling always came from an idea that you have.
Okay.
So what is that idea you had that's causing you to feel that way? So if you want something different, change the way that you think, which is a lot of what the mindset coach would emphasize, right? Changing how what we think we become, and what we think you manifest in becoming. We can think positive. We can say all these positive affirmation that we want all day long or year long. But if you don't emotionally connect to your thought, then you're gonna have a break. You're gonna have a drop. You're gonna lose your motivation. So you're gonna have a people who do a lot of motivational speaking or talking about changing your thought, changing your mind. But if you're not emotionally connected to what you're thinking, it will not. That's how my thinking. So I'll use myself as a perfect example. My thinking when I started this whole journey is that I'm not pretty, I'm not beautiful, I'm short, I'm not normal, I'm abnormal. That's my thinking. That's my thinking. I am not normal. And that led to me feeling depressed. I had a lot of self-doubt. I had a lot of low self-esteem. That's what I was feeling. I was feeling anxious. I was feeling fear. I was being afraid of being judged. So if I want to have something different, I need to be normal. Normal means going to the gym and just do everything that everybody else does. Being normal, to me, that's what it is. So I changed my idea of, okay, so I'm gonna be normal. All right, how does that let me to feel? It makes me feel motivated. It makes me feel I can do this. It makes me feel more powerful. And when I can feel more powerful, I'm gonna show up to the gym every single day.
You're right.
Yeah, so I'm gonna show up to the gym every single day and just knock it out every time, which I still do. And I was even thinking, I took it to the next level. I was even thinking, I don't just want to be normal anymore. I want to be exceptional. And in order for me to be exceptional, I'm going to have my 6 packs.
Wow.
So I wanted to have 6 packs. There's someone saying, personally, I still
speakers on the conference as well. Thank you for joining, Coach Triple A. Okay. And so, wow.
I totally agree. We are not normal. We are absolutely not normal. Why? Because we are exceptional. You are extraordinary. And every one of us are extraordinary. But in order to live in that extraordinary, you have to drop being ordinary. And that's something that I recently realized, for all my entire life, I was trying to be normal, trying to be like everybody else. But the fact is that each one of us are very different, very individual. And we all have different talent that we need to contribute to this world. So you may be better, I'm using this example, you may be really good with mechanic, I may be really good with books, right? So we are each to contribute with our talent to make this world a better place for everybody. That is our purpose. And if for any reason that you are not stepping into your extraordinary seed, then you're not living your purpose. You don't want to are exceptional.
Yeah, that's the word. That's the word. That's the word. That's the word.
Yeah.
Wow. Michelle, you've been wonderful. You've been wonderful. You've touched every questions. I mean, every question I wrote down, as in, you've just been flowing exceptionally well. I want to interact with our viewers a little bit. Let me just, see some people who have joined.
Abnormality is meant for genius. It's a personal profile every leader must have.
Okay.
Yes.
Someone here says challenge your challenge. That's, Shakespearean. That's one of the lines of what you told us. Maxim Tunes, thank you for joining. We appreciate you. Modupe, Ola, Shubulola, thank you. Thanks for joining. We have a whole lot of people who join. Lois, John, Ebro, thank you so much. You are an inspiration to me as well. A wonderful minister of God. Thank you for joining. And also my friend from Argentina, Juan Comingo, Mr. Rodolfo Guajaldo. Thank you so much for joining. And he says, thanks, future ambassador of Juan Comingo NGO. Greetings from Argentina. Thank you. I'm greeting you so position in his NGO. Thank you for joining. Enoch Day. Thanks so much. We appreciate you. Triple A says emotions is power. You know.
It is.
Yeah. Lois John Libro says this is so powerful. This is so powerful. Okay. Okay, I think someone is interacting with you right here. Michelle, my offer for you. Sorry, let me get that again. My offer for good pepper soup is still open. Yes, I think I remember you. You shared a post on Facebook. I'm sorry. You shared a post on Facebook when you asked people to let you know, a bizarre food day. Nigeria. Yeah, I think you're going to like it.
and I am coming to Nigeria. I would love to visit. I'm going to get my shirt that KP had offered me, and then the ghost soup.
Yes, we can't wait to have you. We can't wait to have you. Now, before I let you go, because I know you have another conference immediately after this, so we want to let you go prepare. You know, one of the things you do also is you exercise a lot, and exercise has a way of even conditioning our body and our mind. And there is one I request that you just teach our viewers today, and let's see.
Let me go. I'm going to turn the camera the other way around.
Okay. Turn the camera the other way around, and let's see how it works. The balancing ball with Michelle on Living Above Fear conference.
So, I hope everyone can see me here.
Yeah, we can see you.
Yeah. So there's my balancing ball.
Okay.
So here's my ball.
All right. We can see you.
Can you all see?
Yeah, I can see you.
That's one.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow. 7, 8, 9, and 10. That was awesome. That was wonderful, Michelle. That was wonderful. That was wonderful. So can you tell us how, I mean, just briefly, what exercise body and mind?
Yeah. So the good thing about exercise, I'm gonna turn around.
Yeah.
So the good thing about exercise is that it influences our energy. So there are 6 factors that influences our overall energy. And if you're noticing that you have low energy, sometimes you wake up, you don't feel motivated.
Yeah.
Go for a walk. The physical influence on our energy is so big, right? If you don't have a good night's sleep, it influences our energy. It impacts our energy. So physical and energy, they're interconnected. There's other elements. So physical, emotion, if we're feeling down, it affects our energy. There's also mental. Something that you're thinking can impact our energy. Social, the fact that we're all social distancing, it will impact our energy. Environment, we're all locked down in a closed environment. We're on each other's nerve. If you have a big family, they're all in the room. That will impact our environment. So environment is another energy factor that would cause why we're feeling low or feeling depressed. Environment. And another one would be I'm catching up. I need to spiritual. So the last one is a spiritual.
Spiritual, okay.
So are we spiritually connected, not just to for someone who's Christian or Catholic, they may be spiritually connected to God. For someone who's Buddhism, they may be spiritually connected to Buddha. There's also spiritual coming from ourselves, how connected we are to ourselves. We have a spirit, we have a soul. How connected are you to yourself? So that can be also spiritual. So 6 factors that will influence your energy: physical, mental, emotion, environment, social, and spiritual.
Wow.
All 6 will influence how we feel. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
hormones that will be released into your bloodstream, and then it will work for you and change a whole lot about you.
Right.
Wow, that's wonderful. Oh, Michelle, I gotta let you go. It's been a wonderful time with you. I'm telling you, you ran through my script, from the beginning to the end, and you were just dishing it out so hot and fresh. It's been wonderful having you on the Living Above Fear conference, and I'm sure this material will go a long way in helping thousands of people, because apart from people who watch or who are watching the live cast right now, we're going to make it available to people after the live cast, and then it will reach thousands of people. Thank you so much, Michelle. Join us tomorrow on another